The silent sentinel, the Viridian Gate, hung in the darkness like a scar across reality itself. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck of the human vessel Constellation, watching the ancient structure rotate slowly against the backdrop of distant stars. The gate measured nearly 1/2 kilometer in diameter, constructed from a material that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Patterns of silver and deep violet rippled across its surface, hypnotic and beautiful. Marcus had seen the historical records. For 3,000 years, the gate had floated in this neutral sector of space, equidistant from the territories of a dozen major civilizations. 156 species had attempted to unlock its secrets. All had failed. "Captain, we're receiving another warning transmission from the archivists," said Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, his second officer. She was young for her rank, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Marcus sighed. The archivists were a coalition of species who had claimed guardianship over the gate 2 centuries ago. They documented every attempt to activate it, maintained the research station nearby, and generally made themselves difficult to anyone new who wanted to try. "Put it through," Marcus said. The view screen flickered to life, showing the triangular face of a Gen administrator. The Gen were an old species, their civilization spanning 12,000 years. They considered themselves the intellectual superiors of most other races, especially humans. "Captain Webb," the Gen said, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless English. "We have reviewed your species' request to approach the Viridian Gate. Your application is denied. Humanity has been spacefaring for only 217 years. You lack the technological sophistication and historical understanding necessary for this endeavor." Marcus had expected this response. He had prepared for it during the 6-month journey from Earth. "Administrator Kelth, with respect, the gate has rejected every technologically sophisticated species that's approached it. The Korthan Empire tried for 50 years with no results. The Solvari Collective brought their best quantum physicists. Nothing. Maybe sophistication isn't what the gate wants." Kelth's eyes narrowed. The Gen had facial expressions that roughly translated to human emotions, and this one clearly meant contempt. "You suggest that primitive intuition will succeed where advanced science has failed? Ridiculous. The gate is a mechanism. It requires the correct input, the proper frequency, the right technological interface. Your species barely understands quantum mechanics." "Then you won't mind if we try," Marcus said calmly, "since we're obviously going to fail anyway." There was a long pause. Marcus could see Kelth consulting with others off-screen. Finally, the administrator turned back. "You will be allowed 1 attempt. Standard protocol. No weapons, no aggressive scanning, no attempts to damage or remove material from the gate. You will approach in a single shuttle with no more than 3 individuals. Any deviation from these rules will result in immediate intervention by archivist security forces." "Understood," Marcus said. "We'll begin our approach in 2 hours. The transmission ended. Sarah looked at him with concern. "Sir, we don't actually have a plan, do we?" "I mean, beyond just showing up and hoping something happens." Marcus smiled. "That's exactly the plan, Lieutenant. Every species that's tried to open this gate has brought their best technology, their most advanced theories, their greatest scientific minds. They've treated it like a puzzle to solve, a lock to pick. But what if it's not looking for the smartest species or the most advanced civilization? Then what is it looking for?" asked Dr. James Chen, the expedition's chief scientist. He had joined them on the observation deck, his arms full of data tablets. "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but I know one thing about humanity that makes us different from most species out there. We remember where we came from. We remember failing, struggling, nearly destroying ourselves a dozen times over. Most advanced civilizations have polished away their rough edges, forgotten their origins. Maybe the gate wants someone who still remembers what it's like to be desperate." 2 hours later, Marcus sat in the pilot seat of the shuttle Endeavour, with Sarah beside him and James in the rear passenger seat. The shuttle was small, unarmed, and carried minimal scientific equipment per the archivist requirements. Through the forward viewport, the Viridian Gate grew larger as they approached. "I'm reading energy fluctuations from the gate," James said, checking his instruments. "But that's normal. It's always active on some level." Marcus guided the shuttle closer. The archivist station loomed to their left, bristling with sensors pointed at them. He could imagine Kelth and the others watching. waiting for the humans to fail so they could add another entry to their database of unsuccessful attempts. At 100 meters from the gate, Marcus stopped the shuttle. The structure filled their entire forward view now. The patterns on its surface moved in ways that seemed almost alive, almost conscious. Marcus had read reports from other captains who had attempted this approach. Many described feeling watched, judged, measured by some unknowable intelligence. "Now what?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus unbuckled his restraints and moved to the airlock. "Now I go talk to it." "Sir, that's not in the protocol," James protested. "We're supposed to attempt contact from inside the shuttle." "Everyone else followed the protocol," Marcus said. "Everyone else failed. I'm going outside." He suited up quickly, checking his seals and oxygen supply. The suit was standard EVA gear. Nothing special, nothing that would impress an ancient alien artifact. That was fine. Marcus wasn't trying to impress anyone. The airlock cycled open and Marcus pushed himself gently into the void. His magnetic boots were disengaged, so he floated freely in the space between the shuttle and the gate. The structure loomed before him, vast and incomprehensible. Marcus activated his suit radio. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of Earth, representing humanity. We're here because we heard you've been waiting for someone. We don't know if we're the right species or not, but we wanted to try." Nothing happened. The gate continued its slow rotation, patterns flowing across its surface in their eternal dance. Marcus continued. "We're not the oldest civilization out here. We're not the smartest or the most advanced. A lot of species look at us and see primitives who barely survived their own tribal warfare and environmental collapse. They're not wrong. 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves. Nuclear weapons, climate change, pandemics we refused to take seriously until it was almost too late." He paused, gathering his thoughts. Behind him he could hear Sarah's breathing over the radio link, but she stayed quiet, letting him work. "We survived because we're stubborn," Marcus said. "Because when logic said to give up, we didn't. We rebuilt. We learned from our mistakes, most of them anyway. We looked at the ruins of our wars and decided to try something different. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. But we made it through." The gate's patterns seemed to slow their movement. Marcus couldn't be sure if it was real or just his imagination. "I don't know what you're looking for," he continued, "but I know what humanity is. We're the species that sent rovers to Mars before we figured out how to feed all our people. We're the ones who wrote poetry in the trenches of our wars. We're doctors who worked until they collapsed during plagues, and firefighters who ran into burning buildings, and teachers who taught children to read in refugee camps. We're messy and contradictory, and we make terrible decisions, but we keep trying. We keep hoping, even when hope makes no logical sense." Marcus reached out and touched the gate with his gloved hand. The universe exploded with light. Energy surged through Marcus's suit, not painful but overwhelming. His vision filled with images that his brain struggled to process. He saw cities built from crystallized starlight, beings of pure thought dancing between dimensions, ships that could reshape reality with their passage. The gate's creators, showing him what they had been. Then the images shifted. Marcus saw the creators as they ended, not through war or disaster, but through transcendence. They had evolved beyond physical form, beyond the material universe itself. But before they left, they had built gates like this one, scattered them across multiple galaxies, set them as tests for younger species. The gate spoke directly into Marcus's mind, not in words but in understanding that translated itself automatically. "Why did you come here?" "To learn," Marcus answered, not sure if he was speaking aloud or just thinking. "To understand. To see if you could help us. Help you do what? Survive. Grow. Become better than we are." The gate's presence in his mind felt ancient beyond measure, but also curious. "You are young, barely coherent as a unified species. Your technology is crude. Your understanding of the universe is incomplete. Why should we help you?" Marcus thought about Earth, about the billions of people waiting to hear if this mission had succeeded. He thought about his daughter Emma, 8 years old, who had asked him before he left if he would meet any aliens who liked to draw. He thought about humanity's long, bloody, beautiful history of failing and trying again. "Because we remember our mistakes," Marcus said. "Because we carry our scars and we don't pretend they don't exist. Every advanced species I've met has evolved past their violent phase, their chaotic era, their time of struggle. They're peaceful now, orderly, logical. They've forgotten what it was like to nearly lose everything. We haven't, we remember. And maybe that memory is worth something. The gate was silent for a long moment. Marcus floated in the light, waiting for judgment. "You speak truth," the gate finally responded. "The Eldari, our creators, built these gates to find species who carried memory in their bones. Species who knew the weight of survival, who understood that progress is not inevitable, who had stared into the abyss and chosen to step back. Many species become wise, but few become wise while remembering their foolishness. You are young, Captain Marcus Webb, your species is young, but you have walked through fire and you remember the burning." The light intensified. Marcus felt something changing, not in the physical universe, but in some deeper reality. The gate was opening, not its physical structure, but its purpose, its function, its reason for existing. The Eldari left gifts for those who could open the gates, knowledge that must be earned through suffering, through survival, through the stubborn refusal to surrender when surrender seems rational. "You have earned the right to receive these gifts, Captain. Your species has paid the price in blood and tears and generations of struggle. Enter, learn, then decide what to do with what you find." The patterns on the gate's surface rearranged themselves into a doorway. Through it, Marcus could see a corridor of light stretching into impossible distance. Inside waited knowledge, technology, understanding that could transform humanity overnight. "Captain Webb," Sarah's voice crackled over the radio, full of alarm. "Sir, the gate is changing. Sensors are going crazy. The archivists are demanding an explanation." "What's happening?" Marcus looked back at the shuttle, then forward at the open gate. He had a choice to make, and he had to make it now. "Tell the archivists that the gate responded to humanity," Marcus said. "Tell them I'm going inside. And Sarah, if I don't come back in 1 hour, you take the Endeavor back to the constellation and you go home. You tell Earth what happened here." "Sir, I don't think—" "That's an order, Lieutenant." Marcus didn't wait for her response. He activated his suit thrusters and flew toward the open gate, toward the corridor of light, toward whatever the Eldari had left waiting for a species like humanity. Behind him, he heard shouting over the radio frequencies, demands and questions from dozens of species who had spent centuries trying to open this gate. But the gate had chosen. It had chosen humanity, and Captain Marcus Webb was about to find out why. He crossed the threshold and reality changed around him. The corridor stretched endlessly in all directions, filled with floating spheres of knowledge. Each one contained information compressed into pure data, waiting to be absorbed by whoever touched them. Marcus saw spheres labeled with concepts his translator couldn't quite render. Post-scarcity economics for adolescent civilizations, reconciliation physics, the medicine of forgiveness, technologies for species who remember pain. At the center of the corridor floated a larger sphere, darker than the others, pulsing with red and gold light. Marcus knew instinctively that this was the core message, the primary gift the Eldari had left behind. He reached out and touched it. Information flooded his consciousness, vast and terrible and hopeful all at once. He learned about the convergence, an event that occurred in this region of space every 50,000 years. Dimensional barriers thinned, allowing things from outside reality to enter. The last convergence had nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy. The next one was coming in 37 years. But the Eldari had left a solution, a network of dimensional anchors that could be built to stabilize reality during the convergence. The technology was complex but not impossible, requiring cooperation between multiple species and resources from across the galaxy. It would take decades to complete, requiring perfect timing and coordination. The knowledge downloaded directly into Marcus's neural implants, burning itself into his memory with perfect clarity. He saw the designs, the mathematics, the philosophical framework needed to make it work. He understood in that moment why the gate had waited for species who remembered their struggles. Only those who had faced extinction and survived would have the motivation to prevent it from happening again. Marcus pulled his hand away from the sphere, gasping. His suit's medical monitors were screaming warnings about elevated heart rate and brain activity, but he was fine. Changed but fine. Captain Webb. The gate's voice filled his mind again. You have received the primary gift, the knowledge of the convergence and how to survive it. This information is now yours. What will you do with it? Marcus knew this was another test. He could keep this knowledge secret, use it to leverage power for humanity, force other species to bargain for survival. Earth could become the center of galactic civilization overnight. But that wasn't why he had come here. That wasn't who humanity was, not at its best. I'm going to share it, Marcus said. All of it. Every species needs to know what's coming. We'll face it together or not at all. The gate's presence felt warm, approving. You have passed the final test, Captain. The Eldari hoped whoever opened their gates would make this choice. Knowledge hoarded is knowledge wasted. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Go now, return to your people, tell them what you have learned, and prepare your species for the role they must play. What role? Marcus asked. Leadership. The dimensional anchors require a specific type of energy to function. Energy generated only by species who carry deep survival instinct in their genetic memory. Humanity must coordinate the construction effort, must provide the activation energy, must guide others through the crisis. You are young, but you are needed. The galaxy requires what you have become. The corridor began to fade. Marcus felt himself being gently pushed back toward the physical universe, back toward his shuttle and his crew and the shocked observers watching from the archivist station. Wait, Marcus called out. Will there be others? Other gates? Many others, on many worlds. Each with different knowledge, different gifts. This is only the beginning, Captain Marcus Webb. The Eldari left an inheritance for species like yours scattered across the stars. Find them, learn from them, and use what you learn to save not just humanity, but all who share this galaxy with you. Marcus emerged from the gate back into normal space. The corridor behind him sealed shut, the patterns on the gate's surface returning to their eternal flowing dance. But something had changed. The gate now glowed with a soft golden light that it had never shown before, and as Marcus watched, symbols began to appear on its surface. Human writing, a simple message visible to anyone with a telescope. Opened by humanity. Knowledge shared freely. Marcus activated his thrusters and returned to the Endeavor. Sarah and James stared at him through the viewport, their faces showing shock and confusion and hope. Captain? Sarah's voice was quiet. What happened in there? Marcus smiled, exhausted and exhilarated. Everything just changed, Lieutenant. Everything just changed. The inheritance of survivors. The return flight to the constellation took only minutes, but Marcus felt like he lived a lifetime in that span. His mind buzzed with the information the Eldari had implanted, vast databases of knowledge organizing themselves in his consciousness. Ship designs, energy matrices, diplomatic frameworks, and at the center of it all, the terrible countdown. 37 years until the convergence tore holes in reality itself. Sarah kept glancing at him from the co-pilot seat, concern etched on her face. Sir, your vital signs are all over the place. We should get you to medical as soon as we dock. I'm fine, Marcus said, though his hands trembled slightly on the controls. Better than fine, actually. I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I just downloaded a library into my brain, and somehow I can access all of it. James leaned forward from the back seat. Captain, I'm reading residual energy signatures all over your suit. Quantum fluctuations at frequencies I've never seen before. Whatever happened in that gate, it fundamentally altered you on a subatomic level. The Eldari were thorough, Marcus murmured. They didn't just give me information. They gave me the capacity to understand it, to retain it perfectly, to communicate it clearly to others. They modified my neural structure to serve as a living repository for their knowledge. The constellation grew larger in their viewport, its familiar bulk a comfort after the strangeness of the gate. But surrounding their ship were dozens of others, vessels from the Archivist Coalition and curious observers from nearby systems. Word had spread fast. The gate had opened. Humanity had succeeded where 156 other species had failed. As the Endeavor settled into the shuttle bay, Marcus could see the crowd waiting. His crew, yes, but also representatives from other species who had been monitoring the situation. At the front stood Administrator Kelth, his triangular face unreadable. The airlock cycled open. Marcus removed his helmet and stepped out into a wall of questions shouted in a dozen languages. His translator struggled to keep up with the cacophony. How did you open it? What did you find inside? What gave humanity the right? Is it dangerous? Marcus raised his hands, calling for quiet. The crowd settled reluctantly, all eyes fixed on him. He could feel their emotions, a mixture of curiosity, envy, fear, and hope. These were species who had tried and failed to unlock the gate's secrets. Now they needed to know if humanity would share what they had found or hoard it for themselves. The gate opened because humanity carries something the Eldari were looking for. Marcus began, his voice steady. Not advanced technology or superior intelligence. We carry the memory of survival in our genetic code. We remember nearly destroying ourselves, Remember clawing our way back from the edge of extinction. The Eldari built the gates to find species with that specific quality. Kelth stepped forward, his translator rendering his clicking speech. You claim the gate chose humanity based on suffering? Preposterous. Every species has struggled. Every civilization has faced challenges. What makes human pain special? Marcus met the Gen's gaze. It's not about the pain being special. It's about remembering it. Most advanced civilizations evolved past their violent phases thousands of years ago. They've become peaceful, logical, orderly. They've polished away their rough edges and forgotten what it felt like to stand at the brink. Humans still remember. Our wars, our plagues, our near extinctions happened recently enough that we carry them in our cultural memory. We haven't had time to forget. And what did this memory earn you? Asked a Sulvari delegate, her crystalline form refracting the shuttle bay lights into rainbow patterns. What knowledge did the Eldari give humanity? This was the moment. Marcus could feel the weight of what came next. The choice he made now would define humanity's relationship with every other species in the galaxy. The Eldari left a warning and a solution, Marcus said clearly. In 37 years, an event called the Convergence will occur in this region of space. Dimensional barriers will thin, allowing entities from outside our reality to enter. The last time this happened, 50,000 years ago, it nearly exterminated all life in the galaxy. The Eldari survived it barely, and they left us the technology to prevent it from happening again. Silence fell across the shuttle bay. Marcus could see shock registering on alien faces, disbelief warring with the evidence of his success at the gate. You're saying we have 37 years until an extinction event? James whispered. Captain, are you certain? The knowledge in my head is absolutely clear, Marcus replied. The convergence is inevitable. It's a natural phenomenon, like a solar flare but on a galactic scale. However, the Eldari developed dimensional anchors, massive structures that can stabilize reality during the event. If we build enough of them, strategically placed throughout the galaxy, we can shield ourselves from the worst effects. Kelth's expression shifted to something that might have been fear. How many anchors are required? 317, placed at specific gravitational nexus points across 12 sectors. Each anchor requires resources from multiple solar systems and construction expertise from various civilizations. The Eldari estimate it will take at least 30 years to build them all, leaving us only 7 years of buffer time. This is an elaborate deception, said a Korthan military observer, his forearms crossed skeptically. Humanity seeks to manipulate us into serving your purposes. Why should we believe any of this? Marcus had anticipated this reaction. He pulled a data chip from his suit pocket, one he had prepared before entering the gate. I'm uploading all the information the Eldari gave me to an open network. Complete designs for the dimensional anchors, mathematical proofs of the convergence event, historical records from the last occurrence, and detailed instructions for construction. Everything. No secrets, no leverage, no bargaining. You can verify the data independently. He handed the chip to Sarah, who moved to a nearby console and began the upload process. Within seconds, the information began flowing to every ship in the vicinity, freely available to anyone with a receiver. The crowd erupted. Some species celebrated the openness. Others protested, insisting there must be a trap, a hidden cost. Kelth stared at Marcus with something approaching respect for the first time. You're giving it away, the Gen administrator said quietly. Knowledge that could make humanity the most powerful species in the galaxy, and you're simply sharing it. The Eldari hoped we would, Marcus replied. It was the final test. Would we hoard what we found or share it freely? Besides, this isn't about power. This is about survival. Every species in this galaxy needs to work together or we all die together. There's no room for politics when extinction is the alternative. A Morphe delegate, her liquid metal form rippling with agitation, flowed forward. The data mentions that dimensional anchors require activation energy from species with specific genetic markers. Species that carry survival instinct in their DNA. That's humanity, isn't it? You're the only ones who can turn these anchors on. Marcus nodded slowly. Yes. The Eldari designed it that way because they lost the ability to generate that type of energy themselves. They evolved beyond it. The anchors need input from beings who still remember what it means to fight for survival at the most primal level. As far as the data indicates, humans are currently the only species in this region of space with the right genetic profile. So we build these anchors using our resources, our labor, our technology, the Morphe said, and then we depend on humanity to activate them. That gives you tremendous power over us. It gives us tremendous responsibility, Marcus corrected. And I won't pretend that doesn't worry me. But I can promise you this. Humanity will activate every anchor we build. We'll send our people to each location, and we'll do whatever is necessary to protect everyone. Not because we want power, but because it's the right thing to do. Kelth studied Marcus for a long moment. I have spent 200 years believing humanity was inferior. Too young, too volatile, too emotional to contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. I was wrong. The gate recognized something in your species that we have lost. The question now is whether the rest of us can put aside our pride long enough to accept your help. It's not just our help, Marcus said. We need yours too. Humans can't build 317-dimensional anchors alone. We don't have the resources or the expertise. The Sylvari understand crystalline energy matrices better than anyone. The Korthan have construction capabilities we can't match. The Zen have organizational systems that could coordinate this entire project. Every species brings something unique to this challenge. Sarah finished uploading the data and turned to Marcus. Sir, I'm receiving responses already. The Drayan Collective is offering their shipyards for anchor construction. The Narration Union wants to open their resource networks. I'm seeing cooperation agreements forming in real time. But not everyone was convinced. A tall Vrexian warrior pushed through the crowd, his scaled body armored and his expression hostile. This could still be a trick. Humanity orchestrates a fake crisis, gets us to exhaust our resources building useless structures, then dominates the weakened galaxy. Why should we trust you? Marcus understood the suspicion. Humans were newcomers. 2 centuries ago, they had been fighting each other with nuclear weapons. Now they claim to be saviors of the galaxy. It strained credibility. You don't have to trust me, Marcus said. Trust the data. Verify everything. Run your own simulations of the convergence event. Test the anchor designs. Check the historical records against your own astronomical observations. The Eldari left enough information that you can confirm independently whether this threat is real. And if you conclude it's not, then you're free to ignore it. But if you conclude it is real, then we have 37 years to build the largest coordinated project in galactic history. Dr. Chen stepped forward, his data tablet displaying complex calculations. Captain, I've been analyzing the information from the gate. The mathematics checks out. The historical astronomical data correlates with anomalies we've observed, but never understood. This convergence event, it explains patterns in stellar formation, gravitational fluctuations, even certain extinctions in the fossil record. I think it's real. More voices joined in, scientists from different species confirming their own preliminary analyses. The data was too detailed, too consistent, too verifiable to be a fabrication. Slowly, skepticism began transforming into acceptance, and acceptance into urgency. Kelth raised his voice, commanding attention. We need to convene an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Every member species must be informed of this threat. We need to form a coordinating body to manage anchor construction and resource allocation, and we need to do it immediately. Every day we delay brings us closer to the convergence. I propose the formation of the Unified Survival Initiative, said the Sylvari delegate, a coalition of all willing species dedicated to preparing for the convergence. Humanity should hold a leadership position given their unique role, but all species should have equal voice in planning and implementation. Marcus felt relief wash through him. This was actually happening. Species that had been rivals or indifferent neighbors were coming together in the face of a common threat. It was exactly what the Eldari had hoped for when they built the gates. There's one more thing, Marcus said, raising his voice to be heard. The gate I entered was just one of many. The Eldari left gates scattered across multiple galaxies, each containing different knowledge and gifts. The information in my head includes the locations of 17 more gates within range of our current exploration capabilities. Each one is waiting for species with specific qualities to open them. We should mount expeditions to find them, to learn what else the Eldari left behind. More knowledge? Asked James, his eyes bright with scientific curiosity. What kind? Medicine, energy systems, agricultural techniques, social frameworks, all sorts of practical applications for species at various stages of development. The Eldari wanted to help younger civilizations avoid the mistakes they made. to accelerate beneficial progress while minimizing suffering. It's an inheritance left for anyone wise enough to claim it. The conversations grew louder, more animated. Marcus could see plans forming, alliances being negotiated, the gears of galactic civilization shifting to accommodate this new reality. It would take years to organize properly, but the foundation was being laid right now in this shuttle bay. Sarah touched his arm. "Sir, you should get to medical. You've been through something extraordinary and we need to make sure you're okay." Marcus nodded tiredly. The adrenaline that had sustained him was fading, replaced by exhaustion. He had accomplished what he came to do. The knowledge was shared. The cooperation was beginning. Humanity had earned its place not through conquest or superior technology, but through the simple act of remembering where they came from and choosing to help others avoid the same suffering. As medical personnel escorted him away, Marcus looked back at the crowd. Dozens of species, some friendly, some hostile, some completely alien in thought and form, all coming together because a human captain had touched an ancient gate and chose to share what he found. The Eldari had been right to wait for species like humanity, not because humans were special or superior, but because they remembered being desperate, and that memory made them generous instead of greedy. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. His daughter Emma would be proud. When he returned to Earth, he would tell her that yes, he had met aliens, and many of them did like to draw just like her. They were all different, all unique, but they could all work together when it mattered. The gate had opened for humanity, but what came through was meant for everyone. That was the real gift of the Eldari, the true inheritance of survivors, not just the knowledge to prevent extinction, but the wisdom to share that knowledge freely. 37 years until the convergence. It would be enough time. It had to be. Because humanity and all their new partners would work together to make sure it was enough. The ancient gate floated in space, its golden glow visible to ships across the sector. A beacon that said someone had finally listened. Someone had finally understood. And now at last the galaxy would face its future together.